Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13th, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference or head to msche.org and click on the conference link. I'll see you there.
Now listen up.
Because Insights EDU 2025 is coming, and this is the conference you don't want to miss. Meet us February 12th through 14th in New Orleans for one of our favorite higher education marketing and enrollment management events of the year. Imagine 3 days packed with actionable insights and the latest innovations in higher ed. We're talking top industry experts, real-world case studies, and hands-on workshops designed to help you grow your programs, boost engagement, and elevate your student experience. This is your chance to hear the latest higher ed trends from speakers at Google, Reddit, Meta, MIQ Digital, and schools across the country. Mark your calendars, get your team, and get ready to welcome the era of the modern learner at Insights EDU 2025. Register now at insightsedu.com and secure your spot. We'll see you there.
Hey everybody, this is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience, and today we are extremely excited to announce our paid subscription service. By subscribing today, you will get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content. That's right, original content, and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain EdUp. To become a subscriber, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and subscribe to our free email newsletter to learn how you can get access. Again, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to Ed Up on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio here on another episode. And I have a guest with me that sometimes, and I've said this before on the podcast, there are certain guests that I have to run massive scheduling gymnastics with. This particular guest, it's been my fault. Every time we've been scheduled, I've had to reschedule because of a meeting or a personal reason, or I had a day off, or I was out of the country, just various reasons. And he has been steadfast in going, hey, Joe, reschedule with me. And I have been very committed to doing this episode. And in fact, today alone, I had to reschedule on him. But we only pushed it by 1 hour because I said, we got to get this done. In fact, when you look back at this gentleman's record, you can see why it was really important for me to interview him. A deep experience in higher education over a 30 to 35 year, I think 35-year career, and now book author. And we're going to get him on right now. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Dr. Len Jessup. He is now a best-selling book author and former college president of Claremont Graduate University. His book, Selfless, Lessons Learned from a Life Devoted to Servant Leadership, is available on Amazon now. And life lessons, leadership lessons, a book that you definitely want to pick up. And I want to add also the former president of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, before he came to Claremont Graduate University. So public institution president, a private institution president, and academic over many years. Len, welcome to Annette Up. Mike, how are you?
Joe, thank you for having me. It's so good to be here. And we were practically neighbors in Claremont. I can't believe you were big time in me on the scheduling of this.
I'm telling you what. So, long story short, for the audience, of 2 institutions ago, I worked at a place called Claremont Lincoln University. It was literally like a block or two away from where Len was. Very, very close. You could probably throw a baseball from one building to the other. And by the way, Claremont, California is a very beautiful part of California. It is kind of like Old Town USA in a way. And, really we're so close to each other, but now so far apart, but glad you're here, Len.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about the book first, because this is your most recent accomplishment, Selfless, Lessons Learned from Servant Leadership. What brought you to write this book, and what was the catalyst for it?
It's one of those things where it's like the project that you work on for 30 years. And I finally, about two years ago, it was summer 2 years ago, I sat down and wrote the initial draft of it. And then it's a bit of a story of my life, and I didn't have the courage to do anything with it. So I actually sat on that draft for a full year. I shared it with family, and a couple of close friends, and got some feedback on it. At that point, probably had written it more for my kids than anything. And anyway, I sit on it for a year. I don't have the courage to publish it. Forbes reaches out then a year ago. And, and they're like, you got anything you think that's worth putting out? So I send them the draft, and you'll appreciate this. I got great feedback from them on what to do with it. But the thing that sticks out was their main bit of feedback was, we don't know how to put this to you, but you're not famous enough for a memoir. We're going to need to turn this into more of a leadership book. Anyway, and then that's what turned it into what it is now.
So many years working in higher education, all the complexities that we have and bureaucracies that we have, and your background's so interesting because if you just look at your two presidential opportunities, they're almost polar opposites. The University of Nevada, Las Vegas, a large urban public university, Claremont Graduate University, a smaller private specialty maybe university, certainly like a boutique university, tucked away in this little affluent town, I would say. So really polar opposites. And what did you learn from these two different types of institutions that helped you write this book?
Well, it's funny you say that about the contrast, because that summer when I transitioned from UNLV, like you say, the big urban public, down to Claremont, little very boutique specialty private university. That summer, 2018, the Chronicle of Higher Ed ran a story and a ranking. I think it was Chronicle, and it was first time I'd ever seen it, and I haven't seen it since then. They did a ranking of kind of higher ed administrators who had made the most kind of high contrast moves, and they actually had criteria like size of institution and all this stuff. I was ranked number one on the list. My first time ever doing that. And it was quite a move. And anyway, what I got from it was my first time being at a private. I'd always thought of myself as kind of an entrepreneur and a change agent within higher ed. But man, I didn't know velocity until I got to Claremont. We were so nimble, so entrepreneurial, and moved with such velocity there. I'd never experienced anything like it. Launching programs at the drop of a hat. We saw an opportunity, we went for it quickly. And that was probably the biggest thing I got from that time at Claremont Graduate University. Nimble, entrepreneurial, moving at the speed of thought. And there's a lot of that went into the book.
Also, you've been a faculty member, dean, you've got a deep background in academics. Sometimes we administrators, right, when you see both sides of it, we do get pushback from the academy on certain things that we want to do, no matter what kind of institution that you're in. Servant leadership goes a long way to fostering collaboration, to making sure that the collegiality is there. But we can sometimes over-socialize, and there's a delicate balance between socializing things and actually getting things done. How do you balance servant leadership and education? I mean, this is the key to the book, right? What are the secrets to being a servant leader and also getting things done without slowing down the process?
That's exactly the thesis of the book. So thanks for that question. I mean, it's because the book is kind of, like you say, it's contrary to what you would think makes sense, right? We're at higher eds at this incredible time of change, and everything's topsy-turvy, and in the enrollment cliff and all these things happening. And so you'd think you need an approach where you can just move quickly. And the whole thesis of the book is go slow to go fast. you got to think about that for a second. Go slow to go fast. I found that the servant leadership approach, or in the book, what I call selfless leadership, actually got in the situations I was in, trying to get things done throughout higher ed and a number of leadership posts, and trying to be the best change agent I could be. I got things done a lot quicker and ultimately a lot better when I just slowed down and engaged people and work with people and getting things done. Kind of right at the heart of what shared governance really means.
Why? What do you think is selfless leadership? Messing up my words. Selfless leadership, an elevated state of servant leadership? Is that the way you think about it?
Yeah, I just thought of it as sort of servant leadership with a little bit more active voice. That's why we chose the title that we did of the book, Selfless. It's 2 words. If you think of self as a verb, the notion is that you need to self less, like wag more, bark less, very similarly, you need to self less. Because I thought servant leadership, a lot of what I read from kind of Greenleaf back in the 70s all the way through, sort of to me seemed like more of a state of mind that you'd think about others maybe before you think about yourself. And I was trying to put more active voice into it, that you've got to actually act. You've got to do things. You've got to really do things right in the best interests of others as you lead, if you really want to get things done.
As you've completed your journey in higher education, retiring from Claremont Graduate University, and then obviously coming from UNLV, you've seen colleges and universities from multiple lenses over multiple years, and it's funny. One of the most interesting parts to me of that contrast, as you were talking about it, is UNLV, your incoming class might be what, 10,000. Claremont Graduate University, maybe your incoming class is 600 or 400 or 1,000. Right. And as a president, you're not spending that much time between 9,900 and 10,000. You're kind of like, yeah, okay. But at CGU, the way the enrollment works for a smaller institution, I mean, every 10 students, one student can have huge impact to the bottom line. And so you become a different type of leader, focusing on different types of things. How did your personal attention change from big to small?
It's, as you say, being at UNLV, we had just cracked 30,000 students while I was there. So your numbers were actually not that far off. And, there it's, when you're at especially a big public like that, you're really the CEO of a corporation, right? Or you should be thinking of yourself that way. Kind of the old model of the university presidency is just throw that out the window, right? The very provostial sitting, in an office, reading a lot and smoking a pipe and kind of being about the campus. I was about campus. At UNLV, I walked that campus almost every day and really tried very hard to engage all the stakeholders, both on campus and off. But I was the CEO in every sense of the word, and I had a big team doing things for me. When I got to Claremont Graduate University, just a fraction of the size, as you say, an incoming cohort of 500 or 600. That was a good cohort to bring in, that year. And so, you really have to roll up your sleeves and do a lot of things yourself, because you can't delegate. You can't rely on things with people. So just, little simple things like when we would recruit, I'd be recruiting and I'd be calling students.
Epic.
Especially if they're, I was in business school. And so if it was a domain I was familiar with, I'd put the call in to recruit that student. Or even as simple as events. We did many presidential events at the house, and I'd be right out there with the team setting up the event in the backyard and tearing it down when we were done. So, things that you typically wouldn't do, at a university of 30 or 40,000 students.
Why did you decide to move on from higher ed? Was it time for you in your life to get this book out? Was this like a major project sitting on the shelf and you thought, I got to do this? Do you feel like you accomplished everything in higher ed and it was time to move on? Have you thought about doing something different? Talk about, because it's not only hard to create a pipeline of people who want to become college presidents, but it's very hard for people to stay in that college presidency for whatever reason. It's like 4 to 5 years or somewhere, 5 point something years. So the tenure is declining. what were your circumstances to deciding to move on from higher education, and what advice do you pass on to young leaders that want to be a college president that are maybe giving it a second thought right now?
Yeah. Well, first, let's talk about transition. I'm 63. I'm a fit 63-year-old. So
yes, sir.
Physically, I could have kept going. I mean, I certainly have the stamina and the energy. And it was more that after a 35-year career in higher ed, and then the last 20 years or so, high level leadership, dean and above. Because in addition to the two presidencies you mentioned, I was dean at University of Arizona, the business school, my alma mater, where I got my PhD, and then also dean at Washington State University. And so I just needed a break. I mean, that's a lot. And I went back to back to back. As a faculty member, I never took a sabbatical. And I really didn't take much of a break in between the leadership roles. And it's hard work. It always has been, I think, and especially now with the dynamics and especially the headwinds in higher ed. And so I think just more emotionally, I needed to take a break. I still haven't deviated from my path. My goal has been for the last 20, 30 years that when I get to the end of my path, I want to be able to, in that moment, look back and know that I did everything I could to do as much good as I could for as many people as I could, and that I never shied away from an opportunity to do so. And I've got that written on a little moleskin notebook in a desk drawer back in my office at the house. And that's guided me, and it continues to guide me in everything I'm doing now. And I just felt, so I'm not deviated from my life's purpose, but I felt like I needed a little break from higher ed administration. So and the second part of that was, the advice to people is, it's such a noble pursuit. I highly recommend it to people to take on a leadership role in higher ed. Such a noble pursuit, but you got to be careful and you got to pace yourself. Surround yourself by really good people, and you got to practice a lot of self-care, because man, it's easy to wear yourself down, to wear yourself out in this business.
Tell them like it is.
When I was reading your bio, you actually have in there that you didn't take sabbatical, that you also very rarely took vacation. If you had to go back in time and do it again, do you think that you would take more vacation, have more self-care activities? Do you think that could have, do you think that could have minimized the load? If, because I think there are a lot of people that do that. I'm guilty of that myself. Like, my wife is like, take a vacation day. I'm like, I can't, I got to work. I have to. I always feel this overwhelming need to continue to work. Do you think that would be something you would change, or you look back and go, no regrets?
I'm really more of a no regrets guy, so I probably who knows. But something funny was, I said this summer to my wife, Christy, we ought to think about going to Hawaii. Let's take a little trip over there. And I reminded her that we did that, to the last few years of the presidencies. We would take a week, and we would save up our money and our miles and all of that, and we take a little trip over to Maui. And I reminded her of that. I said, remember how we used to do, when back in my final years of the presidencies? And she said, Len, yeah, we went to Maui, but you never put your phone down. You were on your phone constantly the whole time we were there. And I said, really? I kind of thought I was in the moment and enjoying it with you. And she said, there were moments when we went for a swim and did this and that, had nice dinners, but you pretty much worked the whole time we were there. So, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would probably say, yeah, take a little bit more time to relax and enjoy and take care of yourself and to be with your family. Probably should have done that.
It's funny that you say that, and because I do that too. In fact, I think my wife thinks that I have massive, digestive problems, because I'm always grabbing my phone and running to the bathroom on vacation just to check my email. But she must think something different. So, but we do that, right? There's a need to stay connected, to be in the know. Yeah. And part of that is this overwhelming feeling that we're going to come back to something and it's going to be destroyed. And part of that is because maybe we don't trust our people, maybe because we don't want to let go, maybe just because we are just used to it, right? But that also, is that a part of selfless leadership, that you're always connected somehow, that people always have access to you, or is it not? where that can be controlled?
There is a thread through the servant leadership literature that sometimes servant leadership isn't necessarily good for the individual, the person. That you got to set some boundaries at some point and take care of yourself. So it's interesting that you mentioned that. I did a talk on campus actually at UNLV with the group of MBA students, and one of the students raised that question with me. And how do you balance that? It's difficult. It's like the work-life balance generally for everyone. But if you're somebody who's really thinking of yourself as being in service to others, it's pretty easy to stop thinking about yourself. And that way, I really need to take a break here, and I need to slow down today. And I need to take a little extra lunch break where I'm actually eating lunch and I'm not running, to check my phone and check on emails. That's a good point.
If you go back to the two schools that you were president, which one did you like better and why? Have you ever thought about that?
This is a difficult Sophie's choice. So I don't think I can choose. I like them both for different reasons. UNLV, big, urban, dynamic, public. We were ranked actually number one as the most diverse campus in the country while I was here, while also simultaneously reaching Carnegie R1 status with a research focus. And sometimes that's difficult to do both of those things at once. It was just such a beautifully diverse and dynamic campus with so many cool things that we were doing here in this Las Vegas community where I am right now. I loved that, the dynamism of the campus. I loved it. And then, like I mentioned before, at Claremont, it was the nimble entrepreneurial little kind of PT boat. That was really fun to be a part of. And as you mentioned, being in the Claremont Village, living and working in the village, and walking. I literally had 10,000 steps every single day, I think, for the 6 years that I was in Claremont. That's special and hard to replicate.
That's why you're a fit. How old are you? 63?
Yeah, 63. Exactly. A fit 63-year-old. I used to joke that the Claremont, any of the Claremont colleges, is kind of like the Ivy League, but with better weather. It was an incredible place to work and to live. I'll tell you that.
It was very difficult if you worked there and in a building. You would look for every reason to go outside and take a walk.
Yeah, beautiful weather all year long, and in the little village to walk around and hit the restaurants and so forth. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
One of the big differences of UNLV to Claremont graduate, besides the obvious that you have undergraduate programs at UNLV and graduate programs at CGU, was UNLV, you've got sports teams. You've got Division I high-level competitive sport teams. Back in those days was before NIL. It must have been just starting, or maybe the conversations were just starting at that point. But you're talking about athletics. You're talking about huge undergraduate, student life build-outs. You're talking about impact, economic impact in the region, and so on. At CGU, you don't have those things that maybe take you away from the student, but your focus is so much on the student because you don't have those other threads taking your time away. That's I see that as a big difference. To go, wow, I don't have to deal with these mini cities that I have. Athletics is a mini city at UNLV, right? With all of the things that go on. Did you learn anything about yourself too as you went through that? Going, you know what? I like being closer to the students, or not.
Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference. We'll see you there. Mark your calendars now for February 12th through 14th, because this is where we welcome the era of the modern learner and the most anticipated higher education marketing and enrollment management conference of the year. We're headed to New Orleans for Insights EDU 2025. This year's event is packed with speakers from companies like Google, Meta, Reddit, and MIQ Digital, and schools across the country. Ready to learn how AI is transforming the marketing landscape and how to adapt your programs to the preferences and demands of the modern learner? Then Insights EDU 2025 is where you need to be. Register now at insightsedu.com.
Hey everybody, this is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. Are you enjoying the conversation so far? Good, I hope so. Did you know that you can actually hear this conversation early before anybody else and ad-free, so you don't have to hear my voice during these ads? And did you also know that you could get extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content? That's right, original content and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain EdUp? Well, if you didn't know, now you know. So go to edupexperience.com, that's EDUP experience.com, and become a subscriber today. First, you got to sign up to our free email newsletter, and then you'll find out how to become a subscriber. Again, go to edupexperience.com.
No, definitely. And close to the students is a good way to put it. And I felt that I was close to the students at UNLV as well. But, we were focused on getting to Carnegie R1. That's what we're working on. So that entailed building out the research portfolio, launching a medical school, which we did, and getting it accredited. We had talked to leadership at the Power 5 conferences. That was an aspiration for us, going from the Mountain West Group of 5 up to one of the Power 5 conferences. And their advice was, you need to get your stadium deal done, which we did with the Raiders, Allegiant Stadium. I'll be there tonight at the UNLV game. They said, get your stadium deal done. You need to build a football practice facility, world-class for your football team. We did that. And then you got to get better at football, which now UNLV has done, ranked in the top 25 in the AP for the first time in their history. And we were working on those kinds of big talk about tectonic plates, big movement. And then when I got to, which was awesome. And then
by the way, the budgets associated with that are massive.
Yeah, it was nearly $1 billion. I mean, it was huge. And then when I got to Claremont Graduate, it kind of took me back to my roots. The focus on graduate education, working so closely with master's students and PhD students. It kind of took me back to the things that the reason why I got into higher ed in the first place as a PhD student, and then as a faculty member working with PhD students. It sort of takes you right back to fundamentals and right back to your roots. And so I had a lot of fun on a different scale, you know what I mean? Scale and scope at CGU as well.
Yeah, it's such good insight. It's a changing world in higher education too. You mentioned it before we started recording, like enrollment is tough. And in fact, we were probably competing against each other, if I'm not mistaken, because you guys were doing, I think, primarily on-ground graduate education. Is that correct, what you were doing, or did you do some online too?
When I got there, it was completely on ground. We launched, for the first time ever for any Claremont college, we launched 2 online master's degrees, and then just got those going, and the pandemic, the lockdowns hit. Mm-hmm. And so everything at Claremont Graduate had to go online overnight, right, within about a week of spring break. Then, interesting. So then that got us maybe competing more with Claremont Lincoln in the online space. But, everybody is now in higher ed. Everybody's competing with each other in the online space. The interesting thing coming out of that, though, was that, and as you know, it was a pretty tight lockdown for almost 2 years in LA County. They were very strict with us. When we came out, I asked the faculty and the grad students at Claremont Graduate, what do you guys want to do? Our DNA has been small, intimate seminars, beautiful campus. You've all got a taste of online. What do you want to do? And the feedback was unanimous from faculty, staff, and students. And it was, can't wait to get back onto the beautiful campus, but you got to cut down on our driving. There's just no way we're going to go back to the 5-day a week or 6-day a week commute. So CGU came out of the pandemic, and it still is heavily hybrid now. Yeah. And that was a sea change for a Claremont college to make that move.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the little known facts that people don't think about is if you have a school in the greater Los Angeles area, considering traffic and drive time is a deterrent. It's a reason for students not to go to school. They don't show up. Yeah. It is massively it's an incredible barrier, and you have to consider drive time. Like, drive time is a real consideration. It's pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah, because it could be an hour or more easily for people, so it's significant.
So tell us about the book a little bit more. Are you doing speaking off this book? If there's anybody out there that wants to have Len Jessup come to their campus, is this something that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. No, yeah, it is. Yeah, I mentioned speaking on the UNLV campus. I'll be taking off on Sunday to go down to speak at a conference, actually in Riverside, held at the old Mission Inn there in Riverside. And so the speaking continues, and it's a ton of fun. It's been great to have people, read the book and be influenced by it and have it, affect how they think about their own leadership journey. That to me has made it worth it. The project. And let me give you a couple quick anecdotes out of the book that I think kind of put the message, I think you can put it into practice. Selfless leadership. Here's where it really hit home for me. When I got to UNLV, and we had a big, tall order of things that we needed to work on. And I mentioned the stadium and the medical school and getting to Carnegie R1 and all these things, and all of that accomplished. But when I look back, the thing I think that I'm the most proud of was that when I first got there, I did the 100-day listening tour and, talking to everybody about their aspirations for the university. And I met with the groundskeepers. It's a beautiful 300-acre. And I met with all the groundskeepers. And one of the lead groundskeepers who was quiet during that meeting after me and said, "Do you mind if I come and talk with you privately in your office?" It's Conrad Wilson was his name. And wow. So I set up a meeting. So Conrad comes to the office. He's now retired from UNLV. I mean, think about the courage that takes for one of the groundskeepers to ask for a private meeting with the president. And so Conrad comes up to the office. I'm wondering what this is all about. He said, "Did you know that there's a generous tuition benefit that employees at UNLV get?" And I said, "Yeah, Conrad, I do. I know it." And it basically, partners and dependents get to go to the university practically for next to nothing. And he said, "Did you know the faculty get that benefit?" I said, "Yeah, I actually know several of my friends who are faculty here are using it for their kids." And he said, "You know that administrators like yourself and also the professional staff have that benefit?" And I said, "Well, I didn't know that, but that's good to know." And he said, "Here's the point. Did you know that the classified staff like myself, the groundskeepers and the bookkeepers, that benefit is not extended to the classified staff?" And I said, "Conrad, I did not know that. Wow. And that's a travesty." And he said, "Mr. President, we need to do something about this." And I said, "Conrad, you're right. We do need to do something about this." And he and I worked on that, and it took a lot longer than it should have. It was a lot. I won't go into the details. It was a lot harder to get that through the system office than it should have, but we eventually got it done. And I credit Conrad Wilson. He actually went to the Regents meetings during public comment several times and spoke really openly, passionately about getting this thing passed. And I credit him with finally getting it over and getting it passed. But that was the classified staff was the group that needed that tuition benefit more than anyone.
The most,
and then
exactly.
Right. And you think about transformational effect on their families generation after generation, because now their kids get to go to the medical school and the law school. How great is that? And that stuck out for me as something that was probably one of the best things we did because of the effect it had on people who really needed it. And that really hit home for me, the importance of thinking more selflessly as a leader. It wasn't about the accolades and the stadium and the big stuff. It was about the little stuff that made a big difference for people. That's what really matters.
I love that. Well, Len, we want to have you come back for a subscriber episode, an episode specifically for our subscribers here at the end of this. But before I let you go, I want to give you an open mic. Tell us where we can get Selfless, where should we go buy it, and anything else you want to say about the book. Open mic.
Thank you. I just hope people read it and that they're influenced by it somehow, hopefully positively, and they give me feedback on the book. And the easiest thing to do is just go to Amazon. You can either search on my name, Jessup, or on selfless. It's 2 words, and you can get it in print, or you can read it on your phone, or audiobook. The audiobook turned out great. So you can get it in any format, very reasonably priced as well.
Did you read the audiobook, or did you have somebody do it?
They did it for me, and it's actually a voice actor, Chris Abel, who is awesome. And when you hear him, you'll recognize his voice. He's done a lot of stuff, both books and in media and movies. And he's an actor, so he reads it. You think it's his story. He's incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Can
Pretty
we
good.
also buy this direct from the publisher if anybody
Yeah,
wanted
Forbes. Forbes Publishing has got it on their website as well.
Yeah, and I say this as a fellow book author. Writing a book is not easy. Amazon takes a lot of those dollars. If you order it from the publisher, your author actually makes those dollars instead on the sale of that book rather than Amazon. I love Amazon, but not that much. So.
Yeah, so Forbes Publishing, you just search on Len Jessup Forbes, and that'll pop up as well. And it's they've been great to work with. Boy, the Forbes, the marketing muscle that Forbes is just incredible. They've done such a good job with the project. I'm really happy with it.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to bring Dr. Jessup back for a episode for our subscribers here in just a second. But here he is, Dr. Len Jessup. He is a best-selling book author of Selfless. You can pick it up on Amazon. Former college president. Len, thanks for being here.
You bet. Thank you. I appreciate the time. Thanks for this.
You just upped. Okay, everybody, we're back with Len for our subscribers. And Len, I would be remiss if I let you go before I ask you what I think is really an important question and one that I know people are interested in. And it goes back to this leadership question. If you could pick, if you were mentoring someone right now and you could sit that person down, man, woman, whomever, and say, here are the top 3 things or traits or thoughts or actions or just the top 3 things that this person would need to know to be a college president. It could be high-level skills, whatever. What would those 3 things be and why?
Well, we touched on some of them in the prior podcast, self-care and surrounding yourself by people smarter than you and those kinds of things. But now I think what I would add to that as the critically important one, I just had a conversation just this morning with a mentor of mine, Lane Rollins, a 3-time university president at University of North Texas, Memphis, and Washington State University. Lane continues to be a great friend and mentor and consigliere to me. We were talking about this morning, and it's that it's gotten so difficult. These jobs have gotten so difficult that you've got to really be sure that you want to do it and that you've got the resilience and the patience and the stamina to do it right now. Now, I'm not trying to dissuade people from doing it. It's incredible. Of all the things I did in my life professionally, being a university president was by far the most rewarding, and I had the most fun. But I think his advice was spot on. You got to be sure you got the fire in the belly to do it, and you got the resilience to do it, because it's a difficult job right now.
What was the hardest part of it in your mind? Was it innovation? Was it fighting the bureaucracies? Was it creating something new, sustaining something old, cutting costs, generating revenue? What were those couple of things that just always seemed difficult? We know enrollment's difficult. That's always going to be there. But, I think that I have found personally in my nearly 25 career in higher ed that fighting inertia, the slowness, the sameness when you're trying to innovate was really what sapped a lot of my innovative spirit. Yeah. I fought through it mostly, but that was really hard to navigate. What do you think was those most difficult parts?
So on the one hand, I definitely had my share of fighting through inertia, and it's impossible to escape that, I think, in higher ed. But that I don't know that was the most acute problem, because I back to the kind of the point of the book and selfless leadership. By working with faculty, I always found a way to work through impasse. I always found champions on campus for what we needed to do. As long as I go slow to go fast, as long as I slowed down and worked with faculty and co-created solutions to get done the things that needed to get done, we always found a way to get things done. So it wasn't necessarily that. For me, the harder thing was more the external. The headwinds right now that higher ed is facing are so severe. We're already facing the automation that every industry goes through. I had talked about that. I think Claremont Lincoln was on the front end of that innovation with online learning. that automation and disruption, you think of the Clayton Christensen, disruptive innovation, that was already there. But then you get the birth rate decline in the United States. Now you got the enrollment cliff. Now you've got that. Now pretty much everybody in higher ed, out of the 4,000 plus institutions, maybe all of them but 20 fighting for enrollment. So you've got that on top of it. The international has changed now. That COVID,
of course, the value of higher education and people's perception, even getting them in the pipeline.
Fewer 18-year-olds and fewer of them going to college. They see other better alternatives. You got international students staying at home because internationally the institutions have become so good. The QS and other global rankings now have Chinese universities in them for the first time ever. So a lot of these kids can stay home. So anyway, all these headwinds. And for me, it was that I found like, wow, I didn't think I'd have to work so hard on establishing with people the value proposition for higher ed.
Yeah, for real.
I had grown up in California thinking that was just a natural. It was a way out and it was a way up. And I found as president, I really had to work much harder on establishing the value proposition.
And still, we're dealing with that really at all levels. What's one of the things that I see a lot, and as I talk to leaders too, is merging of missions where you have schools that offered vocational programs start offering associate degrees, and your community colleges who've been offering associate degrees start offering bachelor's degrees, and your bachelor degree institutions start going, well, you know what? One way we could do this is start offering associate degrees. Yeah. And then, you know what I mean? So it's like, everybody's trying to offer the next thing, and the sector or area in which somebody plays is becoming very blurry.
Yeah. The thing that's good about it all, not going to fall back on Clayton Christensen again, just loved his work, and may he rest in peace. He passed on a few years ago, but kind of the father of thinking, I think, about around disruptive innovation. He talked about at the core of that is that the power shifts, right, out of the hands of the companies or organizations or universities, and the power over time shifts into the hands of the clients or the customers, or in our case, the students. And it really has. They can vote with their feet. They don't, gone are the days when we could tell them this degree is in 4 years and that's what it takes. And there's no shortcuts and no cutting corners. And we're on the semester basis and they're 16-week courses and you've got to be here in this seat, that's gone. Now, different bundling and packages and shorter timeframes and hybrid. And I think that's ultimately good. I think it's better for the learners, I think, in many cases. And I think in a lot of cases, it's been better for staff and faculty. I think, like I mentioned, coming out of the pandemic lockdowns, our campus community wanted to go to hybrid. They did not want to go back to the fully 100% on-campus DNA that was Claremont before. So I think in the long run, the disruption's been good. It's just, it's kept us on our toes, and it's a lot more competitive than it was.
That's great advice, and I think words to heed here. My takeaway is you really do need to know that you want to do this job as a college president, and that you're going to have to stick it out through some pretty sticky situations in order to come out the other side. And so many of the leaders that I've spoken with, Len, say it's going to take 3 years just to get to the place where you can start, because you got to get through a few cycles, see how everything goes. You're going to start to put things into place, and by the time those things come to fruition, it's 3 years in. What happens then? How do you react? And it's such an important topic because, as you said, this is noble work. We're training the future workforce, the future scholars of our world, and we're in a literal fight for the intelligence of educated society here at this point.
Absolutely. It's the old saying that educated populace, you need that for democracy as well. I mean, it's the implications, I think, around higher ed are so fundamentally important, not just workforce, but it's about a functioning democracy as well. So it is noble work. And I think it's, 3 years, it's not even 1 year, it's hit the ground running. The velocity is so high and it's so competitive. You've got to be able to hit the ground running right from day one.
Well, there it is, everybody. He is the author of Selfless, Lessons learned from a life devoted to servant leadership, which you can pick up on Forbes Publishing or on Amazon if it's easier. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Len Jessup, also a former college president, and on his way to have some lunch in his retirement. Len, thanks for taking the time to talk with me.
Joe, this has been a blast. Thank you, and thanks for including me on this.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just upped.
Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13th, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference or head to msche.org and click on the conference link. I'll see you there. Higher ed leaders, ready to level up your marketing and enrollment strategy? Join us at Insights EDU February 12th through 14th in New Orleans. The ultimate higher education marketing and enrollment management conference is here. Take advantage of early bird prices until December 12th. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Hey, everybody. This is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. Did you enjoy that conversation? I hope you did. Did you know that you can actually hear this conversation early on and ad-free? And you can also hear extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content. That's right, original content and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain EdUp. Did you know that? Well, if you didn't know, now you know. To become a subscriber, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com to subscribe to our free email newsletter to learn how you can get access. Again, that's edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com.